Okay. Meanwhile, when the rescue effort went to go into house search and the water effort started happening about a week later, they started talking about all this contamination, bacteria in the water, these diseases. We're going to have to start inoculating people. So now this is very key now. So they dropped chemicals on these people for 5 days. And then what they do, they dispatch them all over the country. You only need a few. You only need about 3 or 4 to come in contact with so they can say, your ass got it. Now try to understand what's going on here. This is very key because it's in a movie called Transporter 2. You always put it in the movie. The new movie Transporter 2 is out now. It is a movie about, they kidnapped this little boy from this senator. Then they easily bring the little boy back to the senator and his wife, and the little boy is contaminated with a disease, and when the senator goes to this conference, they breathe in the room and everybody in the conference get it. Now, what they have done, and watch that million boys,
that's right,
bullshit ass march.
Stay out of it.
See what I'm saying? World-class people, and y'all motherfuckers are still marching in 2005. See what I'm saying? So what? You don't know why you marched the last time. See what I'm saying? Y'all still marching. You see, because they play on your emotions. The book says that that's one way they contain you and devour you is based on your emotions.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? Now you back here 10 years later, don't have an agenda, more than you worked your years before. And now you back in D.C. again, marching.
Yep.
Now, the key here is what's going to happen is this. And so to let you know that I ain't running no bullshit now, by help with the brother TJ from D.C., we have the official health advisory, CDC health advisory, and this hasn't even hit the TV yet. This is that. So they ain't like, well, that nigga, they're trying to make up some shit on the people. Well, God damn it, here it is, black and white. This is the CDC health advisory brought to you, because we always got to have niggas in certain places. And TJ was in the right place at the right time. So here it is right here, CDC health advisory, and it said, it's a health alert, be the health alert network. Meanwhile, let me explain something. Well, I'll tell you that in 2 minutes. And it says, date, the Hurricane Katrina evacuee. To date, 7 people in the area was affected by Hurricane Katrina have been reported to be ill from a bacterial disease, Vibrio volnificus. Whatever the U.S. spell is, she got some medical terms. She didn't make up some shit. Could be some fucking shit they put in vanilla wafers or whatever. You never know. Vibrio. Okay, that's it. Okay, yeah. They started talking about this before, even the cholera. They said cholera, salmonella, several things. Now, it says, people in this Astrodome is already coming down with diarrhea. Now, they're going to tell you that they caught it from the water, but half the people that came out of the Superdome didn't even touch no damn water. Wasn't even in no water. They dropped shit on them. So this stuff, whatever this shit is that they got, it said 4 have died. The first cases was reported by the Mississippi Department of Health. So they're going all over this shit here. So you got Mississippi Negroes in this mix. And this particular virus can cause an infection to the skin and with open wounds are exposed. And open wounds are exposed to warm seawater. I have to surround them. People are at greatest risk from the illness. And it goes on to say this thing weakens the immune system. And it also goes on to say that if not treated by this, it can cause SARS. Now, what is SARS? The shit that they broke out in in the Iraqi war. So that whole Iraqi war and the SARS thing was also a part of some stuff that they're going to do in future dates.
Yep.
Go back and get the movie, what's the one with the Ebola movie?
Outbreak.
You got to get all these movies and stuff, but they always put them in the movies. Huh? Well, the significance of putting in the movies, they always put it in the movies because, number one, it teaches their people what to understand, but it also is a monitor to see how conscious you are to respond to it. And basically, when they put it in the movie and no niggas respond, they said, well, the niggas are still dead. You see, so it's a monitor. But then again, on the other hand, overall spiritually, the spirit also let them reveal stuff in the movies that they also going to sinisterly do. So that's the way they do this particular thing. But anyway, whatever it is, they have dropped some shit on these things, and this is the health advisory. Now, based on hepatitis B, which one was it? Hepatitis B or hepatitis A?
C.
Hepatitis C. Anyway, this hadn't come out yet because they said when the hepatitis C, they said it would take 1 month before the symptoms would start occurring to know that it's hepatitis C. You understand what I'm saying? So they already even got a timer, an incubation process, you see, based on them dropping this particular chemicals, it would take 1 month with hepatitis C. That's why I'm telling you, right now, don't be no bleeding heart. You can't buy enough food to feed a bunch of niggas, I'm telling you straight up. Y'all stay away from this shit. I'm trying to tell you what time is going on because that's the key. The key is for you to connect up. And when the stuff going on, now my point here is there's two things that's happening. Because they will give you two scenarios of this. Number one, when it all breaks out, we always know that the disease is never as bad as what they say. But then again, now you know white folks' mind. If black folks have come down with something, and they have dispatched black folks out among other black folks,
They're trying to contaminate.
then all black people look alike, so therefore all black people got disease.
Right.
That's what they're banking on. But number two, because we do know that they contain those people for 5 days for a reason, I'm trying to tell you is at this particular time, don't be no bleeding heart and all that, getting into that emotional shit. We got to save the kings and the queens and the doggone, we got to save the so-called priests, which is you conscious people that are not valuable. Let everybody else take them in. But I know you bleeding heart, you get with the emotional thing, but you got to understand, they didn't report on Mississippi or Alabama. Why did they report and show you all those black people? That's because they want you to have a certain response, you see what I'm saying, and react a certain way. Because they're trying to deal with this and it's not by accident that this is coming along with the whole million more march, which we know that half of the evacuees going to be a part of that shit. Mm-hmm. And so they can so say, yo, it's contamination time now. And it all links. It all links into this thing. The first thing I said when they were saying they was having another one of them, I said, watch the fuck out.
Plus your boy Farrakhan is going to retire immediately after that and move to Africa.
You see, and not only that, now he did come and say that they was right. They was flying over they was flying over black people and picking up white folks. And that's why they shot at the helicopters. I heard about that part. Come to find out that another thing that they had some people that was coming there to look at the levees was 5 white guys, and they shot their ass and killed them. And made like it was black folks, it was some white folks, because they didn't want them to come and see that those levees were exploding. You see, those levees were exploding. So they got a lot of stuff that's going on here and stuff. But one of the keys here is this particular aspect of this CDC health advisory. Now, try to understand this. I'm not telling you this for you to be scared. I'm telling you that this is, remember now, everything that they do speeds up their chance of getting off the planet. So whatever they do at this particular time, in this particular cycle, this is not doom and gloom. It just means, number one, they know when their time is up. That's their job, to know when their time is up. You see what I'm saying? Number two, whatever they do only speeds up the process, you see what I'm saying, of them getting this shit done to them. you see, because we can't take no more hits. Now, the mystery here is, we'll get into the spiritual part. We'll get into the spiritual part, but I'm going to get into a couple other things here. I'm going to get into a couple other things here so we can understand this particular spiritual part. There's always some stuff. Now, I got this book. There's a movie you need to go see because it's connected. The movie that's connected with this is Skeleton Key. Anybody saw the Skeleton Key? The movie The Skeleton Key is connected. It's all about the voodoo, Louisiana, voodoo, the whole 9 yards. And one of the keys here is a book called Hoodoo Mysteries. And it says, and Hoodoo Mysteries, Inside Secrets of Louisiana Voodoo. And all of a sudden, by Ray Marlborough. And all of a sudden now, this book is hard to find, yet, but I bought the book in July. And all of a sudden now, you can get them on the internet, and you can get them from certain places, and you can still get it. But they froze this book as far as you go, they are putting it on the shelf. I bought it at Borders Books in July, and then all of a sudden this thing hit, and all of a sudden this book has disappeared. But I'm going to read you something here. Check it out. And so you'll understand what's really going on with this whole Louisiana thing. This book is a secret, as a result of my research of spiritual magical baths. In mid-1999, I wrote an 8-page pamphlet on the topic about my spiritual bath, which was intended as supporting a text for a class in shell divination. The reader response to this brief treatment of the subject convinced me that the audience wanted to know more about voodoo in particular. In chapter 1, I have explained the difference between voodoo as a religion and voodoo as a spiritual or magical practices, as it has been handed down from generation to generation to an unbroken line. Now, if you go see the movie Skeleton Key, that's the first thing the sister says in there. She said voodoo is a religion and voodoo is other practices of magical practices and stuff. And you got to understand, voodoo is where you get the voodoo doll from, because in voodoo there's no such thing as a doll. And that got mixed up. That's voodoo from Louisiana. You see what I'm saying? Now, moving right along, it says, hoodoo and voodoo, both religions, are practiced in the state of Louisiana, have many things in common, being from one root origin, yet they have differences as well. In general, hoodoo practitioners carry many of the same functions as the Haitian Hogan Amambo in the priestess in voodoo. However, hoodoo practitioners of Louisiana are more like the Bokar that exists in Haiti. And the Bokar is the black magic type of practitioner. A big difference is that the big difference is that in Louisiana, the hoodoo practitioner does not have a bad reputation as the Bokar does in Haiti, even though the word hoodoo itself has come a slang of the term meaning, bad luck or fortune. A person who seems to have a run of bad luck is said to have been hoodoo. To many people, the word has derived from the word voodoo, taking the meaning during the early 19th century. So in so many words, they said that what happened is they outlawed voodoo in Louisiana, because after the Haitian Revolution, about a year later, Louisiana started importing Haitians. Now, remember now look at the thing. About a year after the Haitian Revolution, Louisiana, by being a French-speaking territory, and by the Haitians speaking French because they were colonized by the French, it was more than likely that when they started to travel, because they were freed, they made their way to New Orleans about a year later. Now look, they went and took a storm and hit Haiti last year, and 1 year later they hit New Orleans, the same aspect of the way the voodoo traveled. You see, as a result, they outlawed voodoo in Haiti, And what happened was the laws on the book said that you could go to jail based on practicing voodoo or voodoo. But the laws on the book had no laws of practicing hoodoo. So they changed the word voodoo to hoodoo as a strategic move to practice voodoo in Louisiana. And thus you get the word hoodoo. And then hoodoo became mixed with Native American practice of the herbs and the Roman Catholic European practice of the candle burning. And therefore you got a whole other system that derives in America. That is the American origin. See, the whole concept is this. Right? You got to understand that the government, they look for things that have an American origin. They say without black people, America was in a third rate Europe. But because of so many cultures, and mainly the black culture, it made America the standard, you see, of its own unique culture. So when they look at particular things that can unseat them, they say, well, voodoo was from Haiti. But voodoo, which has the Catholic counterpart and Native American root counterpart, is its own unique religion that basically comes out of Louisiana. So as a result of it coming out of Louisiana, then Louisiana has to be the chief state in which they feel that their future problems to unseat them is going to come out of. This is their thinking. What they don't realize is Louisiana is 98% Christian, and the majority of the practitioners in voodoo is now white. But they don't think that way. They only think of what is existing because they're too arrogant to understand that we're going to do it. And it's already being taken place. So they will choose this particular city, and they say, well, we're going to bring it back, but we're going to make sure one thing. Its black element won't be there. So as a result, you see what I'm saying? They sterilize it. Now we're talking about a war that's going on. There's a spirit war that's going on, as well as a physical war. And what you have been seeing was the physical warfare. But there's a whole realm of spiritual warfare that's going on. So let me give you some aspect of what's going on in the spiritual world. New Orleans was called the city of the dead. Now, what is going on in the spirit world is this. This is something that is amazing in the aspect of it goes right down with ancient scripture. And I'm going to talk about biblical scripture, which you can't throw the Bible out because some of that motif is Egyptian. But we're talking about ancient scripture of this. The concept here is we live in two worlds. You can take the movie The Matrix as a great example. There was one world going on that was fake, which is the world we live in. A series of illusions that we think is real. And then there's the real world, which is the spirit world, which our souls is a player also. So now, in understanding this thing spiritually, we have a slave ship that brought us in here. You got a slave ship, which was this dome that had the same feces and all this stuff. Don't think this is just some shit that we dealing with. If you understand the esoteric aspect, this is the stuff that's going on. Then you have an astrodome, which is a place of refuge. So although they call us refugees, you understand what I'm saying? On their citizen plot, they say, we let you go because you ain't citizens. But on another thing, hell, we need to be let go of goddamn sinister shit that's burning. If this thing is falling, then we need to be let go of it. And the government officially let us go when they call us refugees open. And even after the Congressional Black Caucus on Friday complained about it that Friday, they still call us refugees well into yesterday. They're still doing it on most stations. So they're telling you, so there's a ritual going on. Now try to understand this spiritually. It is the city of the dead. It's the city that has the festivals. You know, most of the Caribbean islands have the festival of Lent, or their particular festival. The only one that actually has a festival on that particular level of that is New Orleans in America, and then the rest of the people, you got to set up for Halloween. Because it's the same, that's where this shit comes from. Halloween is probably the most sacred day we got. You see what I'm saying? Whenever the kids come and knock on your door with the Halloween mask on, that is the souls coming. When you give them that candy, that's when you get blessed. It's a whole ritual with that. You see, so those represent souls coming. When you give them candy, it represents the wealth and prosperity you get. You see what I'm saying? I'll give me candy. Now, I didn't celebrate no Halloween, you know, because I didn't want motherfucker knocking on my damn door. but my queen came down. She said, "Now we got to do this shit." She said, "Cause them the spirits." You see what I'm saying? So the spirits and stuff is coming, and also there was a whole and showing up. The next couple of months, we were real prosperous. This shit does work because it is a major ritual. Now, this is one of the mysteries here. Now, check this out. Now, try to understand this. There was a whole bunch of souls that were in pain and suffering, and then they got rescued. Now, spite with the government thing, if you look at this thing outside of the physical body, what is going on the spiritual plane is what the Spirit said here is. When you saw those souls leave out of New Orleans, the city of the dead, going to the Astrodome or Atlantis, and several aspects around the world, and every place got these particular so-called souls or refugees in refuge around the country. It was a ritual, and although the government is doing it for his sinister reason, what they're actually saying here is that is nothing but the energy of our souls transferring from the matrix, the physical illusion, into another world.
Oh, yeah.
So this shit is on as we speak. And although, so it's just like when 9/11 came. There was a ritual that was going down. Although we saw the buildings fall, in the tarot card, the tarot of the tower, they say when the towers are struck, they had 2 towers in the tarot system out of Egypt. They say when the towers are struck, it represents the changing of the old guard to the new guard, the old garrison to the new garrison. You see what I'm saying? So when you have one slave ship give over to another slave ship, it represents people. Now don't look at the physical Astrodome. Just look at the characters and the playing out of a role, a cosmic role. And as a result, it represents the souls coming out of bondage. It's the souls coming out of bondage. So for whatever they're doing, in so many words, they are fulfilling prophecy, even with their sinister deeds. Remember this, and I know it had to come from some things, but I even studied it. You remember on the 10 Commandments, when he kept going to the Pharaoh. Now remember now, the Exodus story, we know, comes from the Corpus Hermeticus. It was a Hermetic Egyptian story that basically the Hebrews plagiarized. And if you get the Tanakh, what they call the Tanakh, which is a big, thick Old Testament, and if you look at the wording and look at the Hermetic text, the ones we have the Bible, you can literally see how a writing style where they literally just plagiarize all these Egyptian texts. So now the Exodus story, now try to understand this now. Remember in the 10 Commandments, which is based on the Exodus story, which is based on the Exodus of the souls coming out of Hemmitt. Get Jeremiah's book of Jeremiah's Ancient Egypt, Light of the World, Volume 2. Where they talk about the exodus of the souls from Hemmitt to the other world. Hemmitt means land of Amen, but it also means the underworld. It also means the physical body. So now, we're talking about a Canaanite ritual. It's in there, but in this particular text of the Exodus, which is taken, the Exodus, the book of Ezekiel, all that shit is taken from the Corpus Hermeticus of the souls exiting from Hemmitt in the Egyptian ritual. Jeremiah explains all of that. In there, those souls that do their exodus, in the movie The 10 Commandments, when Moses goes, which is Tahuti, if you understand not the historical shit, because that never happened, if the mythological character, which is Tahuti, Moses goes to the Pharaoh, And he says, let my people go. And, you know, he said it several times. And the last time the Pharaoh did the last trick by saying, I'm going to kill the firstborn son. And Moses turned to him and said, oh, you fucked up this time, because I told you the last time that the next time you judge, it's going to be by your own hand. So whatever sinister move they're making, it's going to happen to them. Now, let me explain something, how I know it's spiritual. I want to show you something to let you know that what I'm not talking about is bullshit. Look at Atlanta Journal Constitution. See what you got. Put that shit on the camera. It says Exodus. You see? As death toll climbs, perhaps thousands. You see, they only found 400 so far. New Orleans is being evacuated, likely for months. Some refugees find shelter in Atlanta. Now, my point here is, there's a ritual going on, and they just didn't put this on the paper when they say Exodus. So now, if there's a ritual going on in the physical, there's a ritual going on in the spirit realm. You see, in the spirit realm. And this is one of the keys. And by New Orleans being the city of the dead, but they say the dead shall rise. Mm-hmm. This stuff is going on, and it's spiritual, and it's happening. Get the movie, because it's all about, it's in the movie, it's going to happen with this disease. Watch, this shit is coming. The CDC has already warned this shit.
That's right.
Get the movie, the Stephen King movie. What's the name of that movie? The Stand. You got it, baby. You get the damn Stand and look at that shit, and you got it. All of that stuff is connected. All of that is connected. They sitting back trying to find out what Bibles they're going to use. All they know they're going to use some shit on some niggas.
Right.
Right? You see, right now they done did the SARS thing, but my point here is don't get caught up in the okie doke. Now, number two, oh, here comes another black preacher. There's some shit going on. Another black preacher. FEMA cut out the money. They had a $2,000 debit card. They cut it out last Friday. So last Saturday, they told the city of Houston, we pulled it the fuck out. We gone. We getting up out of here. So somebody heard, some black person heard about it, some administrator who was working with them. He called some black preacher. Obviously, they must have called the one that was one of these hellfire niggas. Anyway, this preacher comes and say, look, he said, now, these are the black people you got sitting on these damn cars. He said, let me tell you a little bit about these Negroes. He said, if you don't want Houston to burn down tomorrow, you better fuck around and stay. Because these niggas here, once they see you leave, they don't think it's up for their ass. And Houston gonna burn up. And so they